did you first start playing guitar? Tell us about the first guitar you had and how you got it.
Well, I always loved guitar. Mother said that when I was a little bitty guy, I'd run around the house beating on broomsticks, everything, acting like I was playing guitar. And singing, she thought I was going to be a singer. Well, as soon as I got my guitar, I said, no way, it's too much fun. But my first guitar was acoustic, and I believe it was a real. And anyway, it was a very cheap guitar. I was probably around 12 at that time, and I pretty much started playing guitar when I was 13, and that was when all the fun started. But my first guitar, being acoustic, didn't do it for me. I wanted to play melody and licks and so on. And I got my first electric guitar, which was a Gretsch. It was a Rex, made by Gretsch. And it was not really happening. You know, when I got my first Telecaster, that was happening. That was a 52 Tele. And that's when it all really started, began. And
so did you have somebody taught you some chords? I mean, how did you get started?
No, I picked up some 45 records, and I played records every time when I'd get home from school. I'd get my guitar, I'd play records, I'd tune my guitar to the record, and I would play along with the record. And the Chuck Berry blues records, you know. I was raised on country music, and of course I loved Chet Atkins and Merle Travis, my heroes, you know, those two guys, and along with Les Paul. And I just loved playing guitar. I would want to hear the singer and play answer licks to the vocal. And same thing with the records when I played. I never did play the Chuck Berry thing. I always played with him, around what he was playing. And I think that helped me with my style to get my idea.
So you weren't trying to duplicate the licks. You were creating your own licks.
I was adding to what they were doing. And that, to me, that was really a lot of fun back then. And I was just having fun doing what I was doing. And I won a couple of talent shows when I was like 14, 12 years old. And it was all interesting stuff. And but you know, at one point I figured I didn't really know what I was doing, except I was loving playing melody and just structures, you know. And I just went for it.
Well, now you really got started like 12, 13, 14 years old. Fast forward, it wasn't but just a couple of years until you were on the Louisiana Hayride.
Well, yeah, I started playing when I was 13 and doing small stuff, you know, playing clubs around, working with a guy named Dale Hawkins, had a blues band, and I was playing guitar in that band. And I wrote a little instrumental back then. That was before I actually played on Louisiana Hayride. And I went professional when I was 14, and I was doing all kinds of stuff. But I wrote this little guitar lick, and it became Susie Q. And Dale Hawkins, the singer, wrote the lyrics, and I played the guitar lick.
Yeah, and the rest is history, as far as Susie Q is concerned. And of course, again, we don't have to fast forward very far. How in the world did you end up living in California with Ozzie and Harriet Nelson and being on the Ozzie and Harriet show? How in the world did that happen?
That's a good question. No, actually, I was working with on Louisiana Hayride. I was 14 when I played in the staff band. We had a very good piano player, Floyd Kramer, and we had Jimmy Day on steel guitar. And of course, Sonny Trammell and all the other guys that played. But good musicians. And I played behind all those great country singers. I didn't care who was singing, I just wanted to play guitar. And but that was kind of a short time. and I went to work with a guy named Bob Lumen. And Horace Logan.
Let's think about living, right?
Yeah, but we cut some songs before that. Who Do You Love and Red Cadillac and Black Mustache and a whole bunch of stuff. But there was a guitar player that was in town working with Del Hawkins' brother, Jerry Hawkins. And his name was Roy Buchanan. So when I left Dale and went to work with Bob Lumen, he went to work with Dale, Roy Buchanan. So when I went to work with Ricky, which I met Ricky when we were in California. I was working with Bob Lumen, and we played all the clubs. We played everything in California. The Town Hall Party was probably the #1 spot. Enjoyed mostly Memphis, Merle Travis, and all those people. Just fantastic show. And Larry and Roy Collins. So,
how old were you when all this is happening?
well, I was 16. I mean, it was young, 15, 16. I did my first movie with Bob Lumen called Carnival Rock, and David Houston was in it, and that's when I met Gene Davis, the Palomino Riders. And he was the guy that had the Palomino Club, the band, and everybody in the world, all the great artists came and performed there. And, but with Bob playing Town Hall Party and all these shows, so Bob was on Imperial Records, and so was Ricky. And we were rehearsing a song called My Gal is Red Hot, a Billy Lee Riley song. And we recorded it, and we actually rehearsed it in Lee Chudd's office, Imperial Records now. And Ricky came in on business, and he said, "You heard the music in there," and he said, "Who's playing?" So they brought him in and introduced him to us, and he stayed for about 3 hours while we were playing all kinds of stuff. And the next day we had a telegram. We had a home in the valley, Tarzana, Nova Park, California, and it was great. The bass player, James Burton, went out to get the paper that morning, came back and he had his telegram hanging on the door. And it was Ricky. Ricky invited us to come down to the studio, General Service Studios, to actually meet his mother and dad and all the Ozzy and Harold family. So we went down and he wanted us to bring our instruments. And Ozzy came in, we all met and talked. Ozzy said, would you guys want to play a little bit? So Ricky got his guitar and we all started playing. And Ozzy said, wow, this is great. Would you guys want to do something on the TV show? So he said, let me go write something in the next script. So we started recording on the show. And James and I got homesick. We went back to Louisiana. And Ozzy said, no, we want to film all through the holidays. We'll pay you triple pay, man. And we said, no, man. We don't know. So we went home, and I might have been home maybe 2 weeks, and I had a phone call from Ozzy inviting me to be Ricky's guitar player. And Ricky got on the phone and he said, man, when are you coming out? Can I pick you up tomorrow? I said, no, give me a few days. And but it was great.
I keep going to this, but you're 16, right, at the time?
Yeah, I'm 16. So Ricky and I were just a few months apart. He was 16, I was 16. So we kind of grew up together on the Ozzy and Harry TV show and traveling all over the world playing shows and cutting records. And it was a great time. He was a great guy.
So did Ozzy talk to your parents about, you had to get permission of your parents to go live out there?
Well, yeah, he said, I'll send you a telegram, and if you're okay with it, send it back. Yeah, my mother wasn't real happy about it, but I had to do it sometime anyway.
Well, and of course, Ozzy and Harriet show in the 50s, a huge hit, and probably one of the first music videos in history where you guys, at the end of the show, you guys would play. What do you remember about that?
Well, that was one of the most fun things for the show. And I remember when Elvis called me, he mentioned He said, man, I watched you on TV, you play guitar and Ricky sing. That was pretty much the highlight of the show. And Ozzy started getting so many requests that he wanted to do more stuff, you know, but getting to a point of, you know, not being in control, we decided not to go any further with it. But playing a lot of shows, and you know, when he invited me up to live in their home, so I was like the third son, you know, Ricky, David, and me, you know. So, and Harriet would cook my breakfast every morning. They'd go to work, and I'd get up about 9 or 10 and go get my breakfast. It was in a special oven. It was ready to go. Fantastic people. It was great.
Well, and could you have known, and I don't expect you could have known, that when you were doing that at that time, and you were making those records, and on that show, the young musicians out there that you were influencing, who have, and I'm going to name a few of them, who have said, I'll give you this in case you need that, and I'll give, who have said that how much of an influence, and that they began playing guitar because of hearing you and seeing you with Ricky Nelson. For example, Pete Townsend of The Who called you the greatest American guitarist. Jimmy Page of course, Led Zeppelin, said he started playing guitar after hearing you on Ricky Nelson. And of course, Keith Richards, your friend from the Rolling Stones, who gave your induction speech into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And he talked about that then. He said, in fact, I didn't buy Ricky Nelson albums, I bought James Burton.
Yeah, he did. Jim Sullivan, a great guitar player with Tom Jones, and Tom invited me to come play on his records in L.A., which I did. Jim Sullivan was there, and he sat down and told me the story. He said, you know, what I do in London is I teach guitar. He said, I teach your style, James Burton style. I said, well, okay, what is that? And he said, well, just to give you an ups, he said, your students were Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, Pete Townsend, Eric Clapton. He started naming off all these guys. I said, no, you gotta be kidding, get out of here. He said, no, that's it. I'm teaching these guys your style of playing. They like that style. And I said, well, okay, give it back.
So Jimmy Page, after he was with Led Zeppelin, so he goes out, let's fast forward a few years, he goes out to California, Zeppelin's out there playing, and he looks up JB, he looks up James Burton. Tell about that.
Yeah, he called me, and I was in the studio every day recording with different artists. And so Jimmy called and said, man, I'm coming to L.A. and I want to hang out with you. And I said, well, yeah, come, come hang out. And I'm in the studio every day. And I said, bring your guitar. And he said, no guitar. But he came and hung out, and we were in a restaurant one night, and he pulled his wallet out, and he pulled a picture of me out of his wallet. And I said, what is this? And he said, always. Always in his wallet. That was amazing. And also Albert Lee did the same thing. He had a picture of me in his wallet. But yeah, these guys, they're just great guys. And, if they got anything from me, they went on to be my heroes too, because they're really fantastic players and great people.
And Eric Clapton, of course, being another one of those. And I know you've been invited and played on some of Eric's shows. And,
we did Crossroads.
Yeah. Well, let's go back now. Of course, you finished up with Ricky, and then you'd become known then, of course, in California and in the music world. And there was a group of musicians out there then who were doing recording, and they were kind of the go-to musicians in Hollywood and in LA. recording, and how did you fall in with those guys? How did that happen?
Well, in 1964, Johnny Cash was a good friend, and he wanted me to do a TV show. But Ricky didn't want me to do it because he didn't want his sound, which is my sound. He said, I don't want that to get out. I don't want somebody else to get that sound. So, but anyway, I told Johnny I would love to do it. He wanted me to play slide dobro. So I talked to Ozzy and Maury Palmer there, Rick's manager, and they said, well, we'll have a meeting and talk about it. So about an hour later, they called me back and said, it's okay, go play the TV show. So I went and played this TV show, and I'm sitting in a room at ABC television waiting on Johnny. So Johnny had a 1945 dobro. It was a very old dobro, the metal dobro. And he came through the door dragging it on the concrete floor. I said, Johnny, no, you can't do that. But this show became Shindig. That was the very first pilot film for Shindig. And the producer, Jack Good, was a big fan, and he said, oh man, you gotta be on the show regularly. You gotta be on every week. And I said, well, what do we do, Jack? He said, put a band together, and which we did. We put a band together, and we were called the Shin Dogs. And we actually recorded 90% of the whole show live, or, we did a lot of pre-recording. And that's when I first played with Jerry Lee Lewis.
And if you're not maybe quite as old as me and you don't remember Shindig, you can find it on YouTube, and believe me, you won't regret it. And Shindig, what years was that, James?
64. It was only on for 1 year.
But everybody who was anybody in the music business wanted to be on Shindig. Could you name some of the people that performed?
Well, everybody. Ray Charles, Jerry Lee, Glenn Campbell. I mean, all the artists, they all came and performed. And I had a chance to play with Howlin' Wolf on Shindig. So when the Rolling Stones came, all the English groups performed. The Rolling Stones, everybody. And when Keith Richards came, Keith said, look, I want to bring someone. He said, okay. Jack Wood said, sure. They brought Howlin' Wolf, and Keith wanted to play guitar with him, but Jack Wood said, no, JB. So I played guitar with Howlin' Wolf, and it was a great show. Jack was an amazing producer, and this guy put it together, man. He had the dancers, he had everybody jumping. And I did some solo guitar work on it live, like my own instrumentals and stuff.
In fact, there's a video of you on there playing an instrumental, I think from the show.
Well, I did Love Lost.
Y'all should find that.
Yakety Yaks and a lot of stuff.
Yeah, y'all should find those. You can find those, I think, on YouTube. And of course, so after and Shindig went off the air, you went to the studio, right? A lot, yeah.
Every day.
And
4 or 5 sessions a day, 7 days a week. It was amazing. With everybody you can imagine. If you get up in the morning at 8 o'clock, you do a jingle for an hour, and then you'll go to maybe like a rhythm and blues session. It could be Tina Turner, it could be Ray Charles, it could be anybody. I mean, just amazing. A lot of artists.
well, and of course, you formed part of the legendary Wrecking Crew, and the Wrecking Crew. Did y'all call yourselves that back then? Was that a name back then?
Yeah, you know how it came about. I did a lot of recordings with Phil Spector, the guy of the Wall to Wall sound. That actually came from that Phil Spector recordings. Because Phil Gold Star Recordings was a very hot studio at that time. And Phil would, Sonny and Cher, they were always there. And Phil was a crazy guy. He would have 3 drummers 5 bass players. He would have 3 organs, maybe 4 pianos, 15 guitar players, all on one session. And then Sonny and Cher would be in there flipping coins if they can sing, and Sonny want to play the tambourine. But that actually became, that's when I met Mac Robinack. Dr. John was playing organ on one of the sessions, and him and I became good friends. And,
well, in fact, there's a story about Dr. John, and back there, he was back, Mac Robinack, of course. But there's a little story about him that I heard him tell, and that he gave you credit kind of for keeping his career going. About a guitar, I think, maybe?
Well, he called me one day. He was in L.A. and he was trying to get work. And he called me and he said, man, I got to go back to New Orleans. I said, what do you got to go back to New Orleans for? And he said, well, man, I need some work. And he said that somebody stole my guitar and I had to call to play on a session. And I said, well, you don't have to go to New Orleans for that. I'll give you a guitar. So I gave him a guitar and he stayed in town and did some more work, you know. So, I mean, we were already friends, but the guitar thing was just, it was nothing. So, you know, don't go home for
He
that.
still remembers. He still remembers.
Yeah, but he came and did my show. And,
but some people out there, you know, such great players are doing session work. Leon Russell, of course, was doing a lot of keyboard work. A guy named Glenn Campbell was a session player then, right?
yeah, he was an okay.
Pretty good singer.
Yeah, I think he's a better singer than Perry. And Glenn was great. I met Glenn when he first came out, and of course, you know, Leon Russell. I met Leon Russell when he first came out. He was playing a club in the valley called Sun Valley Rancho, working with Sonny and Al Jones, and Billy Jean Jones, and 2 brothers. And, you know, she married Hank Williams, and then Johnny Horton.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, but he was out there playing, and Leon at that time had a little habit, a little too much. So I'd take him home after I'd stay at the club, and sometimes I'd get up and play, sit in with him. And so I'd take Leon home, and the next day we'd go by and check on him. And he'd still be in bed about 6:30, 7 o'clock. And I said, man, you gotta get up and get dressed, you gotta go play tonight. So I got him out of bed and got him dressed and said, come on, let's go to the club. So he, you know, but we did a lot of work together, played on lots of stuff. As a matter of fact, Leon said I taught him a lot of guitar. But he's a good picker, a good blues player.
And of course, you know, some of the people, we don't have time here to name off everybody who played on their albums. You should check it out. Again, Google it and look at the discography. But it's kind of tough too, because back in those days, James, y'all were just really contract players, and a lot of times y'all were uncredited, right? On the albums, they didn't even put your names on.
That's true. For a long time, you know, they would put our names on the records, and that all started changing because Hal Blaine, they would give, if you had a million sellers, you would get a gold record for the wall. Well, they stopped all that, and Hal Blaine had a whole wall full of them.
He was a drummer, right?
Where'd you get these? He said, well, I had to pay for these. So they started charging for the gold records, you know.
And y'all really didn't care, did you? I mean, you were just making a living, right?
Man, we were busy. We were so busy. Tommy Tedesco and I were probably, we'd always be at the musician union to pick up checks every Friday.
Now, do you mind me asking, do you remember about how much you would get paid for a session back then, in the 60s?
$24.50. This was when we did the Suzy Q record. I think I got $24.50 or $27.50.
Is that $2,450?
No, that's $27.50.
But were y'all making a couple of $100 a session type thing in California? Is that?
Well, yeah. Well, regular session is probably 300, 400. For leader, Tom and I were always leader, so we would get double. It's always double. So we'd end up with maybe 800 to 900 per session.
So you making good money for the 60s, right?
Not bad for 3 hours.
Well, now, you know, I've heard you're a monkey. Is that right? You're kind of you one of the monkeys, right?
Yeah, not a real monkey, but.
Well, of course, the monkeys, and y'all know about the monkey TV show, and they were kind of a made-for-TV group, and they picked the best musicians in LA to play on the monkey songs and members of the Wrecking Crew, and of course, James was one of those. What do you remember about that?
I just remember going in and playing on a lot of monkey stuff. A lot of it was monkey. It's kind of crazy, you know, because those guys were kind of scattered. You know, some of them could play a little bit, but they always wanted to play on their records. And we had to deal with that, you know. The guy said, okay, come on, it's okay. But what would happen, Michael Nesbitt, he was the leader. And Michael was real sharp. He was real smart. And he would let them play on some stuff, but after the session was over, he'd send everybody home, and he would change everything. He would take his group off, the monkeys, and he'd leave all the studio guys on. But Mike was a great guy. He was a great producer, and just really good stuff.
And of course, also
the Beach Boys.
I had the honor of going backstage a couple of years with the Beach Boys, and so I got to tell you this, one of the great thrills of my life, James and I are backstage. Of course, all the Beach Boys are wanting to have their pictures taken with James. They're posing for pictures. So I'm talking to my new best friend, Mike Love, you know, the leader of the Beach Boys, and he goes, so you perform with James? I said, yeah, you know. And he goes, what do you do? Well, I sing a little bit. And he goes, so you and James want to sit in with us tonight? And I go, y'all are like the Beach Boys, right? And anyway, long story short, and it is a great story, but James and I got to go on and perform with the Beach Boys. But James, long before that, in the 60s, had played on the Beach Boys records.
That's correct. Glenn Campbell and I did a lot of recording with the Beach Boys. And we went up to Brian Wilson's house one weekend. He wanted to record some stuff and have playing all the A-team. So Brian was in his pajamas in his bedroom, and we were there to record the whole weekend. He didn't want anybody to go home. He catered food and everything. He said, no, nobody goes home, but we're going to do this record. And every time Brian, we would go and cut some stuff, and Brian would come in and listen maybe 2 or 3 hours later, and he'd say, well, I like this, but we got to change this, change that. I said, why don't you just stay in here with us? But it was a lot of fun working with the guys. I mean, Brian was a genius. This guy was amazing. He put all these voices together, and he just loved everything we did.
Well, and that brings to mind, of course, back when you were with Ricky, you had that James Burton style. And you know, some people call it chicken picking, some people call it a lot of other things. But then, you know, you adapted to, and one of the things you did, you had to play a lot of other styles, I guess, when you were recording, because you couldn't play the quote James Burton style, right? On the Beach Boys, you had to play more surf music,
well,
right?
I couldn't play Merle Haggard on Ray Charles. But, you know, when I started out playing, my guitar, when I first got that electric guitar, the strings were very stiff. And, I mean, I like to bend the strings, but, man, you break your fingers on the strings, are really stiff. So I experimented with banjo strings. I put a set of banjo strings on the guitar, and then for the fifth string, I went to a D, and for the E string, I went to an A. So it was all real nice and even. And it had a little different sound because I realized my third string was unwound. And that was pretty cool. and I liked it. And the first record I did with that with Ricky was "Believe What You Say." It's when I did the string stretching thing. A little different, but and I also used finger picks because the fingers you couldn't get the string didn't just jump out. It kind of dull, kind of dumb sound. And
What's a finger pick look like? I bet you can show us what it looks like.
And because I played dobro, steel guitar, I was playing everything back then. And but the finger pick, that's what it looks like. And
the reason I ask him that is because he's always got them in his pocket. Always has finger picks.
Yeah. So, yeah. Well, if you play guitar, you always take your picks with you. You never know when you're going to run up on the guitar with.
Well, you mentioned and you mentioned Merle Haggard, and of course some of course a couple of my favorite Merle Haggard songs are "Working Man Blues" and "Mama Tried," and which, if you hear those, you immediately know it's James Burton because it is that James Burton sound. How'd you come to play on with Merle Haggard?
Well, I was playing on almost every Capitol record. Ken Nelson was the top producer there, and Ken took me and Jimmy Bryant, the other guitar player, a really great guitar player, very fast player. Him and Speedy West, Jimmy Bryant and Speedy West. Well, Leo Fender, when he was building guitars, he would, Jimmy and Speedy, they would play clubs. So he would take the guitar he's working on out to Jimmy, and he'd say, "Try this, Jimmy, see what you think." So Jimmy helped him a lot with, making changes on the guitar and everything. And so Jimmy Bryant was probably the very first telly player, and I'm the second. So, but it's.
Well, you may be the second, but you are the master of the telecast.
It's okay to be second because you know who number one is.
That's right. That's right. So you and Merle got together.
Well, I was cutting all these records with Buck Owens, Dave Dudley, you name it, all these Bakersfield guys, and all of a sudden here comes Merle. And Merle called me and he said, "Man, I love that record you played with Ricky Nelson called You Just Can't Quit." And I did a little two-string lick on it, and boy, he loved it. And he said, "I'm going to write a song, I want you to come play guitar on it." So that's when it started. The first thing I played on was "The Bottle Let Me Down," me and Ralph Mooney. And I met Ralph Mooney, there was a Cal Worthington, this guy was a car dealer, and he always had a show every weekend. And I met this steel guitar player. Ralph Mooney was playing with Win Stewart, and I loved Win Stewart. And I ended up playing on some Win Stewart records with Ralph. And the other day, well, they had a TV song that they played for a commercial called "Another Day, Another Dollar," Win Stewart. And I kept hearing this record on TV, and I said, "Man, that sounds familiar." And all of a sudden I realized that it's me playing guitar and Win Stewart singing. And but
you weren't getting a check for that, right? No, they weren't sending you a check.
Reuse. But I played with all those guys, even Wanda Jackson. You probably don't remember her, do you? But the party's not over. She's still out there doing it. She's great. And a great lady, and I played on her records, and you name it. I mean, even I did a record one night with Natchitoches-NSU, and Glenn Campbell and I were on the session. And man, he was an hour and a half late for the session, and everybody was getting, it was pretty scary because they were getting shook up a little bit. The contractor for the day, we had 60 musicians, strings and a whole bit. And I was standing out back at Capitol Records in the parking lot, and I saw this white Rolls Royce pull in the parking lot, and I ran and hid behind one of those big pillars. Capitol Records, I didn't want them to see me out there So he got out of the car and he walked in, and I ran out, and I snuck in back there, got in my spot. And anyway, the contractor walked up to Nat King Cole and said, "Sir, what would you like to do?" And Nat said, "Whatever you have up." And the guy said, "Well, this is a song we have on the chart, the music stand." So anyway, he said, "Fine, no problem. One take, no playback, perfect." Did the next song, no playback, perfect, no problem. And took a break, took a 15-minute break. And I said, "Man." And we came back after the break. We did the third song, one take, no playback. Did the fourth song, no playback. Everything was great, and got out like 15, 20 minutes early. But that was the days when the record company required you had to do, about per contract, you had to do 4 songs per session, 3 hours. And he's an hour and a half late, and we only had an hour and a half to play. And we got 4 songs and got out early.
Well, I know there was another time, right, when you were recording with Frank Sinatra, and that's going to bring forth another story. But,
something stupid, I know.
Right. And so there was another time, right? Y'all were all set up, ready to play, waiting for Frank?
Yeah, Mr. Boyd gave everybody a lecture, and he said, "Look, when Frank gets here, we got to cut 2 songs right off the bat, and no monkeying around. I want everybody in their chair ready to go." So anyway, so we're kind of sticking by the chair, we didn't want to take a chance. And sure enough, the door opened, here comes Frank. He walked in, he said hello and everything, and somebody walked in behind him. Jimmy Boyd was standing there talking to Frank, and this guy was Telly Savalas. Telly came up, and they all hugged up, and Frank said, "Ladies and gentlemen, Telly and I are going to run out here and visit a little bit. You guys, Mr. Boyd will take care of you guys, and we'll regroup another time." And Boyd was so mad. So he had to pay all the guys. Another time...
How many musicians were in there? Do you
Well,
remember?
it was
a full orchestra, right?
This was a small group.
Yeah.
But one time we were booked with 60 musicians, double sessions every day, 3 days in a row. And that's 6 sessions. And Frank came in and he talked to Jimmy for about 10, 15 minutes in the booth. And he walked out and he said, "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not in voice, so I'm going to go to Palm Springs and I'm going to chill out and play golf for a couple of weeks. And Mr. Boyd will take care of you ladies and gentlemen." Boy, that's a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money. He had to pay everybody for 6 sessions, the 3-day deal. You can't cancel a session on the spot like that. You have to have 24-hour notice. It was a musician union. So he had to pay everybody. And I could see everybody running for the telephone to get their sessions back that they had to cancel for those 3 days. So it was pretty interesting.
Well, speaking of Frank Sinatra, and we talked about it earlier, if y'all were, I hope y'all were in here with James and Estelle, some of you. We talked about it earlier when Elvis first called me in 1968 and wanted to put a band together. And as I referred to you earlier, you're known as the guy who turned Elvis down, right? The first time he called.
Right. Yeah, that was not true. What happened was Jimmy Boyd had booked Frank Sinatra sessions for the whole week. And I was on call for those sessions. Anyway, when Elvis' group, when they called, I couldn't do it. I called Jimmy Boyd and he said, "No, I can't let you out." So anyway, we're doing that. But the word actually got out that I turned Elvis down for Frank Sinatra. Not true. But anyway, Elvis called me back in '69 to put a band together for Las Vegas. And that worked out really good.
That worked out pretty good for you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We
And
had,
that became the TCB band, of course. And James, tell us about how getting ready for those Las Vegas shows. How did y'all get the band ready? And you and Elvis handpicked them, but you went to him?
No, Elvis didn't pick any.
All right, tell us about that.
No. When he called and asked me to put a band together, I assured him, this phone conversation went on for 2.5 hours, and I assured him no problem putting a band together, and which I did. And so anyway, when he got off the phone, I had to run to my recording session, in which I was late for. But I told him Elvis called, and they said, sure, okay. We need a better one. Anyway, it was no problem. But putting a band together for Elvis was easy because he liked the same kind of music I did, and it was like we grew up on the same type of music. And he loved gospel, same as I do, and all those different types of music. And Elvis wanted, actually, what he really wanted, he wanted to go up a notch. He wanted to do big band stuff. He wanted to have an orchestra. He wanted to be able to do songs that, and nothing against Scotty and Bill and those guys. It was a whole different thing. That thing with Scotty and Bill and DJ was mostly the rockabilly type stuff that he did. And like Mystery Train and Blue Moon in Kentucky and all the stuff like that. But I think Elvis wanted to step up a notch. And by doing that, he knew that he would, not that he was going to get rid of those guys, but they wanted to, I don't know if you guys don't know this story. Ricky, before I actually went to work with Ricky, they had invited, they were trying to get the job with Rick Nelson, Scotty, DJ, and Bill, and the whole band, along with the Jordanaires. And so Ricky brought them to the studio in LA, and they went in the studio and recorded for 2 weeks. But Ricky told me the story that it was not what he really wanted. It was not the style of playing he wanted to do. So they called and invited me to be his guitar player. But I didn't. Ricky told me that story. That's how I knew about that. But Elvis, Colonel Parker, what happened? They wanted a raise, and Elvis. Colonel Parker was in charge of all that. So what happened was Colonel said no. And so they were kind of mad about it and upset, and they were going to go elsewhere.
So you went through your little black book of musicians that you had worked with and that you respected? And
No, it was all up here.
All right.
I just picked the phone up and called the guys and said, this is what's happening. And I said, don't tell me what you want. Just, we'll do that later. But I didn't tell them what Elvis would pay him or whatever. I just said, you tell me what you want to go do the video.
And I guess when you said you want to play on the Elvis Presley band, you didn't. It wasn't hard to find guys that wanted to play. Is what you say?
Well, the guys I hired were good players. Jerry Sheff was the first guy I called, and he said the first thing he said was, "Man, I don't know this guy's music. I don't know anything about it." And I said, "Well, that's okay. You can play." So I knew what we could do, and even though Elvis was probably, a little. But when he came out and I met him, it was like we'd known each other our whole lives. We grew up together. It was amazing. And the music thing. And he was telling me the people that recommended me and blah, 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 and all kinds of stuff. But he, I'm sure he had a lot of offers and, but he said that I was the top of the list.
What would the input? What would be the input that you had when you guys were determining which songs to do and how to do them? What was the process of that? What input would you have?
Elvis was a great singer. He could sing anybody's song normally better than most of the artists that recorded him. You know, he was an amazing singer, and he would put the songs together. We would go into a rehearsal, and he wouldn't make a decision on the song until we all played it and to get the mood right. And but when he would always come to us and say, "What do you think?" And we would tell him. We would say, "Well, this is." We like this, we like that. And he liked that because he liked the guys to be honest with him and tell him the truth. And tell him, you know, if you don't like the song, tell him, you know, because he feels the same way we do. You know, about songs.
And I know that, and y'all talked about it earlier, after you might have you'd have two shows in Vegas, and then you would think y'all would be tired and had enough music for one day, then what would you do?
Well, sometimes we do 3 shows because Elvis would want to do it for the employees that couldn't come to the normal shows. So he would add a 3rd show. And we were cool with that, no problem. And Elvis is probably the only artist that went into Vegas and did a whole month, 2 shows a night without losing his voice. Just amazing.
And then would go back up to the suite after the show sometimes.
And he had to sing gospel all night, all morning.
Yeah, and of course, you know, great tragedy, losing him in 1977, and we played with him, of course, until that time. And hey, for my money, maybe the greatest rock and roll band ever assembled. Do y'all agree with that? And you put it together.
Yeah, it was a real treat. He was a great guy to work with, and you know, I remember George Harrison telling me some stories about going to meet Elvis. They walked in Elvis's house in Beverly Hills, and Elvis is sitting there playing bass, and they come in the room. They're standing there. And Elvis was sitting there playing bass. He didn't even acknowledge them being there. And pretty soon, some Lamar Pike or somebody said, Elvis, you got company. And oh, hey guys, come on in, make yourself at home. But he's still playing bass and never stopped. But, I did an album with George called Cloud 9. It was a lot of fun. And, Jeff Lynne was co-producing. And we did it in his house in Henley, right outside of Rome.
And yeah, I got my mind set on you. Songs on that.
That's what Roy Orbison said. How about the Black and White Night?
How about the Black and White Night video? Yeah, tell a little bit about that. Probably, music critics agree, probably the greatest music video ever made. If you haven't watched it, again, look it up. Roy Orbison, Black and White Night. Let's name off. Of course, James Burton put the band together. Of course, Roy Orbison was good. JB put the band together. You had Bruce Springsteen on it, James. You had singing backup. You had, who were some, help me out.
Jackson Brown, Elvis Costello.
Jackson Brown.
Bonnie Raitt.
Bonnie Raitt, yeah.
J.D. Souther was there.
Yeah.
Katie Lang, and Bonnie Raitt, and Jennifer Warren.
How did all that come about?
Well, I was doing a remake album with Roy, with T-Bone Burnett. And Roy came in the room, and he was really excited I was there. And I met Roy in Vegas when he came in to see Elvis. And he paid me a great compliment. He said, "You're my favorite guitar." And I said, "Wow." But anyway, it was amazing. And after the set, well, I'm glad with this remake album. About maybe 4 or 5 days later, we got a call from
it was, and they just had the 30th anniversary of that. And when you watch it, be sure to watch the credits at the end, because Bruce Springsteen comes on that, and Springsteen says, well, he says, I've sung with Roy Orbison and played guitar with James Burton. He said, I guess I can die.
I love all kinds of music, and I've had just an amazing career with working with so many great artists, including Johnny Ray. I don't know if you know that name, Johnny Ray, Brian. I did an album with Johnny Ray, amazing. And talk about Jerry Sheff losing his hearing. This guy was amazing. He couldn't hear anything, and if a cannon went off here, he would say, it was amazing. I walked by the booth. He had him a loose vocal booth, and he had speakers. I mean, they were huge, much bigger than these. Stand right in front of him, and then he had this huge earphone. And I went by, and the music was so loud in the booth, it was just shaking, man. It was like amazing. And I said, wow, how can this guy do that? You couldn't be in the room that loud.
Well, we could go for hours, but we got a show to play. We hope all of you will come at 8 o'clock. But before we end this, I want to end it with talking about the fact that, you know, James could certainly have every right to rest on his laurels and just, you know, go around and play and, you know, getting awards and things, and which he should. But he's not doing that. And what James and my association began a few years ago, and it all involved charity work. And then one of the greatest things I've done in my life is to be able to be on the board of the James Burton Foundation. And the James Burton Foundation, what we do is give guitars to kids in schools, to kids in hospitals, to veterans and their families. And I'm proud to say that we have started music programs in schools where they didn't have it, where because of cutbacks, they didn't have music in the schools. And we've helped by giving guitars to hospitals. They use in music therapy. And it's all because of the heart and the generosity of this guy.
I gotta say that my family, they were behind me 100%. The way that came about was when I was doing my show, James and Friends. I got to thinking, you know, this is a perfect time to put this foundation together. And all my artists, I don't know that part, but there's a lot of great friends I worked with in the business that came, donated their time to make this happen. And of course, we couldn't have done it without them. And they donated their time, and we just paid their expenses to bring them in. And that was, you know, the school board got behind us, and they really went to bat to get music back in schools for the kids. Because the government took out all the funds for the kids, and we wanted to keep music in schools for the kids, and we're still doing it, still working on it.
So, if you need a cause, particularly a music-related cause and something that's going to help kids, help veterans, then please go to the James Burton Foundation and give generously. And you're going to be buying a guitar, or maybe 2 or hopefully 10 guitars that we're going to put in the hands of where they can do the most good and put music in some people's lives. And we hope that you're all going to join us and walk from here into the main stage, because if you haven't seen this before, some of the things he's been talking about, you're going to see recreated on the stage right in here tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, one more time.
Hey, you guys, I got my own radio show, Serious Radio, Elvis.
On the Elvis
Serious
channel.
Radio.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're doing it. Dwight Yoakam and I, we did 2.5 hours in my studio the other day. and I'm gonna go to California, and we're gonna do 2 hours with the White and Capitol Records, all Bakersfield, you know. Red Simpson, all the guys here, so we're excited about it, and Sirius Radio is they're behind it 100%.
Let's go play some rock and roll. James Burton now.
Thank you guys.